We'll just start our meeting now. So you're all very welcome to the reconvened meeting of the full council. Do you have to go through here again? So I'm just going to ask John to take the members' attendance and apologies.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, members. You're all summoned to attend the monthly meeting of Derry City and Strabane District Council, which is reconvened from yesterday, 29th of May, to be held today in the Council Chamber, Thursday, 30th of May at 2 o'clock. Alderman Cook.
Here, John.
Alderman Guy. Alderman Hussey. Alderman Carrigan.
He's just at the bridge. He says he'll be in 5 minutes.
Alderman McMorris.
Here.
Alderman Middleton.
Apologies.
Appointment. She should be in after.
Okay. Alderman Montgomery. I'm assuming apologies from Alderman Wilkinson.
Yeah.
Councillor Jason Barr. Councillor Lillian Barr. Councillor Raymond Barr. Councillor Boggs.
Shaw John.
Councillor Boyle. Councillor Clark. Councillor Cusick. Councillor Deeney.
Apologies.
Councillor Devine.
Shaw.
Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Alex Duffy.
Shaw.
Councillor Sandra Duffy. Councillor Farrell.
Here.
Councillor Fleming.
And Shaw.
Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Harkin. Councillor Hart.
Apologies.
Councillor Heaney.
Shaw.
Councillor Hutton. Councillor Jackson. Councillor Leonard.
And Shaw.
Councillor Logue.
And Shaw.
Councillor McDade. Councillor McGinley.
Apologies.
Councillor McHugh.
Apologies. Apologies for.
Okay. Councillor Mooney. Councillor Murphy.
Shaw.
Councillor Norris.
Here.
Councillor Farrell.
Shaw.
Councillor Riley. Councillor Tierney. Councillor Innelis.
Shaw.
Thank you, members.
Folks, I'm just checking the broadcasting statement as read yesterday. Okay. Going on now to item number 4, declarations of members' interests. Any declarations? No. Okay. So I have no chairperson's business, and I wasn't notified of any more chairperson's business. I think we had a lot of that yesterday, but there's none today. So we're just going to move on to the notice of motions. So it's Councillor Donnelly.
And I'll get chair and take it that the motion is read.
Councillor, be a seconder for that motion. Thank you, Raymond.
Thank you, Councillor Barr. As members will know from the RLSE planning report, our citizens place great importance on the need for this council to be open and transparent as possible. On the 12th of April 24, officials took a decision that the agenda papers, draft minutes, etc. for the full council meeting scheduled for the 24th of last month should be uploaded to the council web page on the 19th of April 2024. That was the same day that members received their packs. While that commitment unfortunately didn't happen due to a miscommunication between officials, this must be seen as a progressive step for this council to take. Indeed, senior management subsequently reconfirmed on the 24th of April that it was the council's intention to have the full council papers for April uploaded to the website at the same time as members' packs were sent out. Given this commitment from senior management and in the interests of openness and transparency, this motion calls for the formalisation of this practice. There are good reasons why making committee and full council papers available to our citizens at the earliest possible time should become the established practice of this council. High among them are creating a culture of transparency that will help build public trust and affording citizens ample time to consider and, if necessary, raise relevant matters with their local elected representatives. that may need addressed during business. Therefore, I would ask members to support this motion. Chair.
Thank you, Gary. Any? Sean?
Gurmayagat, Madam Mayor, for the sake of transparency and in the interest of maintaining public trust in our planning service, our party are willing to support the motion that's in front of us.
Councillor Minnie?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to Councillor Donnelly for bringing the motion. Of course, goes to some way. This motion goes some way to, as was said already, to bring some transparency and more clearness to the planning system for our residents as well. So, obviously, planning is conducted in the public interest. So this is another way of showing our commitment to the public interest, that the packs get released at the same time as they are released to members as well. So, fully support this. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Harkin?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to Councillor Donnelly for bringing forward this important proposal. I think that anything that encourages more participation from our residents is a good thing. I think anything that encourages more transparency is a good thing. I think that this will be welcomed by many people who follow council proceedings and are interested in how council makes decisions. And I think that we want members of the public to understand what the council is doing, what the planning committee is doing, and there's a lot of important decisions that are made at the planning committee and elsewhere. So the earlier that people have access to documents, the more they can actually engage with councillors, the more they can engage with the council, and the more that they can have some ownership and power over shaping things and influencing decisions. So we very much welcome the proposal and see it as an outgrowth of some of the demands that we heard from stakeholders recently, and I think that this is a very positive thing. So again, I want to commend Councillor Donnelly for bringing it forward.
Thank you. No more indicated speakers? No. Gary, would you like to sum up?
And just to thank you to the members that have spoke and backed the motion. It's appreciated. Thank you.
I don't see any difference of opinion here, so I'm going to take it that that motion passes unanimously. Okay, moving on now to Councillor Jason Bauer.
You, Mayor, and I'll take the motion as read, please.
Just ask for a seconder, please. Thank you, Raymond.
Thank you. In 2007, the A5 dual road upgrade was announced. Since then, Michael McDonald, aged 21, Aaron McDonald, aged 19, Una Burns, aged 35, Keith O'Brien, aged 23, Aaron Harkin, aged 25, Gareth Gallagher, aged 22, Margaret McLaughlin, aged 69, Patsy McGrory, aged 62, Sean McElwee, aged 43, Declan Harvey, aged 43, a female pedestrian, aged 41, Alexander McEntee, aged 65, Mary Elizabeth Scott, aged 69, Cahill Donaghy, aged 16, Peter Fugel, aged 36, Zoltan Sabo, aged 26, Shane Codwell, aged 20, Jonathan Johnny Riley, 29, Leslie Edgar, aged 62, Darren Gallagher, aged 22, Sean Reid, 69, Neil McAleer, aged 24, an unnamed male lorry driver, aged 34, Morris McLaughlin, aged 19, Killian Doherty, aged 19, Simon Glenn, aged 26, an unnamed English couple, aged both in their 70s, Kavox Sabogas, aged 22, Jimmy Moore, aged 19, Camille Vesa County, 17, John Rafferty, aged 21, an unnamed passenger, no age or gender were revealed, David Gilmore, aged 66, Pat McCourt, aged 63, Keelan Devlin, aged 30. Desmond Bingham, aged 60. Sammy Patterson, in his 80s. Kathleen McGarvey, aged in her 70s. Nathan Corrigan, aged 20. Petey McNamee, aged 20. Peter Finnegan, aged 21. Mary Waston, aged 50. Kieran McSorley, aged 50. Darren McAninley, aged 19. Shane Rafferty, aged 41. Julia McSorley, aged 75. Christine McKeon, aged 49. Dan McKeon, aged 53. Big New Bartnicki, aged 52. Niall MacDonald, aged 44. Leo McKeever, aged 64. Mayor, these aren't just statistics that I've just read out. These are mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, cherished family members whose lives were cut short on what is the most dangerous road on the island of Ireland. Since 1994, the year that I was born, almost 90 people have lost their lives on this road. Who's next? It could be me. It could be you. It could be anyone. Who knows? Enough is enough. It's time to deliver the A5. Thank you.
Thank you. Fergal.
I'd like to thank Councillor Barr for bringing forward this motion, and whenever we hear the names of these people read out, it does indeed bring home again to us all the impact that there has been on so many families due to the treacherous nature of this road. Recognition of the need for an upgrade of the A5 has been discussed in this chamber many times, along with neighbouring council chambers and indeed in many homes across our island. The upgrade is required to save lives, prevent serious injury, improve connectivity of the North West region, and improve business opportunities of the remainder of Ireland. I was lucky enough to be part of the North West Regional Development Group, along with Councillors Duffy, Hussey and Tierney, and council officers, along with officers and councillors from County Donegal, to last week meet with DFI Minister John O'Dowd to explain and leave them with no doubt that the A5 upgrade is required as soon as practically possible. And of course, we discussed other essential infrastructure projects, including the airport, the A2 Buncrana Road, and the completion of the A6. I will just use this opportunity, if it's okay with you, I'd just like to take this opportunity to also acknowledge the work of the council officers on the day and in the preparation for our meeting with the Minister Dowd. Excellent work by them all, Chief Executive. It is important, however, to remember that the reason for the A5 public inquiry was that there has been a difference of opinion with this road upgrade. Whilst I am hopeful for a positive outcome from the public inquiry, hopefully sometime over the summer months, it is very important to avoid further delays from legal challenges. And I know that the Minister and his staff are carefully and thoroughly considering the response to the text of the public inquiry report. As a party, we are committed to the delivery of the A5, and on that basis, we welcome and support the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting me in, and thanks to Councillor Barr for bringing the motion. And I thought it was poignant that when you read out the names of many of the people who've unfortunately lost their lives in the A5, and I think it is a very, very dangerous road. And I think now it's a decades-long demand for this road to be upgraded, and it's frustrating that it still hasn't happened. And I look at this as many decades of government failure to build the type of infrastructure that we need in the Northwest, in Derry, and that links Derry to the rest of the island. So I think that this has to be a priority in the same way the A6 upgrade was a priority. Now, I am a reluctant supporter of road spending because I think that our roads should have been built. This should have been done decades ago. We should have had a better road there, and all those lives that have been lost could have been saved if we actually had have invested and developed our infrastructure. I would like to see the upgrade happening at the same time as, a mass spend on developing our rail network. And that the unfortunate thing is that we are so far behind with the A5 that we are still discussing it many years on. And I think that, many of the people who use the A5, the families of people who've lost their lives on it, and people in the Northwest and on the actual the road want to see action on this. So I think that anything this council can do to kind of raise the case, put pressure on decision makers to find the money to invest and to make this road much safer than it is right now. We don't want any more lives lost in the A5, and that should be something that we're all in agreement for.
Thank you. Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks to Councillor Barr for bringing this notice of motion before us today. It'll be no secret to anyone in this chamber, or particularly Councillor Barr, that the SDLP are fully supportive of the A5 upgrade. I was part of a Northwest Regional Development Group delegation that went to meet with Minister O'Dowd only last week, and others here in the chamber were also present. And one of the main things that we were pushing on was around the A5. Now, during that meeting, the Minister was very clear around the public inquiry and the work that he and his officials have to do. And to some, it may seem as if it's holding it up, but I think in the long run it actually won't, because from my understanding, is they're going through it. And I think, to quote the Minister, line by line, to make sure that they get everything right before they make a statement about it. And hopefully that statement comes very, very soon. I think when Councillor Barr, we all know that the A5 is a very incredibly dangerous road, and we all hear of the incidents which take place on it. But I think when Councillor Barr read out the names of those who have lost their lives on it and their ages, it was particularly harrowing to hear that that's happening within this council district. And we need that A5 upgraded for a number of reasons. It will improve people's lives, connectivity, business, tourism, everything. But it will also save lives, and that has to be the most important part of all of this. I am a member of Life After. Mayor, and many people in the chamber will know the work that Life After do. And I've met family members of people who've lost their lives on the A5. Some who still to this day can't pass the spot where that particular accident happened. And I think in all of this, we need to listen to those who have already been impacted by it. Whatever this council can do to try and push on that upgrade. I note that it says we write to the Minister and we continue to lobby Minister Archibald. Whatever we can do to try and do that, we should. I think it's welcome that the Irish government have made a commitment around the A5 as well. But whatever it takes, we have to put our shoulder to the wheel to try and help get this sped up. And as the campaign slogan goes, enough is enough. And we have to see an improvement in that road to save people's lives. So the SDLP will support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Barr.
Thank you, Mayor. Just listening to the names there of a lot of those who have died on this road, some very familiar names. It certainly rams home the message and clearly illustrates the grave problem that exists with this road. And there's really nothing more to be said apart from what Councillor Barr said. Just enough's enough. Very, very glad to support this motion.
Thank you. Alderman Kerrigan.
Thank you very much, Mayor, for allowing me in. And in regards to the A5, we can see the benefits of the project, particularly any that would be travelling from the dual carriageway that's been upgraded there from Ballygolly to Dungannon, and the benefits that incurred in that regard, and seeing the work that's been improved on the A6 as well. So we do see the benefits of the projects, and it has been an ongoing stumbling block in regards to A5, and it's continually raised its head, and there's legal challenges in regard to it. Was felt that it could have been done in stages, and the stage, particularly from Ballygolly to Omagh, could have had been completed, and work could have taken place in that. And it's very emotive there in regards to as Councillor Barr has read out the names in regards to those that have lost their lives on the road. And it's a tragedy for every family connected in regards to that. But again, any is that are travelling on the road, or any road, particularly the A5 there, there's a lot to be said. There's a lot of people that would really need to go back and review their own driving. There are occasions, and it's the dangers are the drivers on the road. There are occasions there, even they say coming down today, there was vehicles overtaking you that really in locations shouldn't be. So a lot of it is on the individual drivers, and it's when you see that there. In regards to it there, the party position is to support the A5 and the work on in regards to getting the A5 done. I do know that there's a lot of agricultural sector in there which is being due to be a lot of farms which are going to be destroyed and decimated in regards to it, and there is that difficulty. They can only dispose of the ground once, and I do know the case as well in regards. I have a lady that has sadly taken her life in regards to the A5, in regards to her home and her farm being destroyed as a result of it, and she has taken her life. So I do know there's the tragedies in regards to that, because there are ones that are continually in these areas, and particularly the section there from Omagh round to Mountjoy down to Newton Stewart and coming on down. So there are the tragedies there, that there are agricultural sector is all being damaged. Yes, there is the improvement that is deemed to be done, and it will, the connectivity has a great benefit to it. So again, the party are content to support Councillor Barr's proposal here, but on a personal note, I will abstain on it. Thank you.
Jason, would you like to sum up, please?
First of all, thanks very much for the support, and really surprised at the DUP stance, to be honest. Abstaining on a motion that's going to save lives, but that is what it is, I suppose. But anyway, firstly, can I thank all those who will support this going forward. And a key point is to make that it does baffle me when people do say the comment that, you know, that maybe it's not the upgrade that's needed, it's maybe the drivers be more careful. That comment really is a baffling comment. And that comment hurts the families that have lost a loved one on that road. Like 90 families are affected in the last 30 years. And comments like that do affect those families badly. Like almost 90 deaths in 30 years is not the cause of careless driving. That's simply the cause of a road that's not fit for purpose. And that needs to be realised. Can I also commend the work of the Tyrone GA and the Enough is Enough campaign, who do absolutely fantastic work and have been a real voice of hope for those families and for everybody that wants to see the A5 delivered. But in my opinion, we shouldn't, we still have to be continuing to campaign for the A5. And it is a disgrace that in the year 2024 that we're still having to campaign for it. The campaign needs to stop, and it's time for delivery. Thank you.
Okay, look, what I heard was that it was a personal choice of yours to abstain and not a party. Would that be correct? Yeah. So is there anybody else who wishes to abstain or object? No? Well, we've no call to take a vote then, John. Just one abstention. Just one abstention. That okay? Thank you. Moving on now, Sandra.
Mayor.
Have you a seconder, Sandra? Thank you, Christopher. Okay.
Okay, taking the motion as read, so I'll just go ahead. Mayor, rising insurance premiums place a huge financial strain on workers, families and young drivers. They're occurring at a time when people are really struggling day to day during what is an unprecedented cost of living crisis. The insurance price hikes are ripping off families and hard-pressed workers. The average cost of driver's insurance is £1,000. Young people, like my own 2 daughters at home, are quoted even more expensive costs. It is absolutely devastating for young people who have passed their driving test after studying and practicing to be quoted ridiculous prices for insurance. Average car insurance prices are 57% more expensive than what they were last year, and they have absolutely doubled for some drivers. Those quotes have been a nightmare for so many people, especially those who depend on their car for work, to support their family, and to get around. They have been left with excess costs through no fault of their own, but they have had to bear them because they depend on their car for daily life. I am sure all of us on here have been contacted by people who are feeling the effects of this unfair rise. They are affecting everyone when times are already tough. Although inflation has impacted on the cost, as it has on most things, the hike in the premiums goes well beyond the rate of inflation. People here also feel that they are experiencing discrimination as insurance companies are basing their quotes on factors that are beyond the customer's control. Some drivers have been charged significantly more than others based on their home address rather than on their driver history. There is frustration that many customers have seen their premiums rise even if they have not been involved in an accident or received any penalty points. They feel that they're being punished despite their exemplary record on the road. Rising premiums are affecting everyone who depends on a car, from teachers to nurses, taxi drivers and traders. This is happening during a cost of living crisis when people are already paying increased costs for nearly everything else, including fuel. It is clear that insurance companies need to do better by the people who have no choice but to pay outrageous insurance hikes. This lies within the remit of the British government, and the responsibility for regulating the market lies with the Financial Conduct Authority, the Prudential Regulation Authority, and the Competition and Markets Authority. Sinn Féin supports an investigation into insurance price hikes in order to hold the industry to account. People have had enough of being ripped off. Sinn Féin will continue to stand up for hard-pressed workers and families, and I ask all parties in here today to support this motion. Cormagat.
Thank you, Councillor Riley.
Thanks, Mayor, for bringing me in, and thanks to Councillor Duffy for tabling the motion here for debate today. She's right in the sense that I'm sure many of us either have experienced it ourselves in terms of renewal of car or home insurance, or have been contacted by people who have faced absolutely extraordinary increases in the premiums that they've been asked to pay. This set against the backdrop of insurance companies reporting huge profits. My colleague in the Councillor, or sorry, Daniel McCrossen MLA raised in the Assembly how the likes of Aviva have had 8% profits up to 715 million. AXA have had a 23% increase on their share profit. NFF Mutual have had a profit of £220 million. So the SDLP have been raising this issue in the Assembly, and also was glad to see that at the Economy Committee earlier this month, again there was discussions there about what the Assembly can do to try and ensure that the likes of the Association of British Insurers are held accountable, as the motion indicates, by the relevant powers that are there to make sure that these increases that people are facing are kept under control. Far too many people are feeling exposed by these increases, not just the young people that Councillor Duffy has referred to in terms of car insurance, often finding their car insurance more expensive than the vehicle itself that they're looking to drive, but also people in our council district in areas like Ivy Mead who have had flooding of their homes, who are now being told by insurance companies that they can't get insurance, yet the insurance companies are putting up the prices of insurance on homes that haven't got flooded. So insurance companies have been adverse to risk by not offering insurance on properties that they feel they may make a loss on, but are putting their hands into the pockets of ordinary people and increasing the premiums for those people who have good history in terms of home insurance or car insurance. And we in the SDLP fully support the motion for that to be investigated and given attention to, Mayor. Thank you.
Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor.
Right, Councillor Harkin, my apologies. Alderman Cook, apologies.
Thanks, Mayor, for letting me in, and thanks to Councillor Duffy for bringing this issue forward. We as a party totally welcome this. Everybody is feeling the pinch of rising insurance costs. Locally, I know that one of the major causes for soaring insurance costs is climate change and flooding, and some of the constituents that I've spoken to are really struggling to insure their homes, and there's others who just simply can't afford it. We need to see some kind of flood alleviation put in place for these areas, and that's only one of the factors. I did some research as well from previous years, and our home insurance stats reveal that customers in Northern Ireland pay the highest home insurance costs of anywhere in the UK. So we definitely feel that urgent action needs to be taken so we can fully support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to Councillor Duffy for bringing this very, very important motion today. Look, I think that this is capitalism at its worst, because the insurance industry is, as others have said, making absolutely massive profits, and they're making massive profits during a cost of living crisis, and they're ripping people off. They're ripping young people off, they're ripping families off, they're ripping workers off, and they're ripping off older people as well. And it's disgusting. And there is no proper regulation of this, so we fully support an investigation. But the reality is Westminster and Stormont have done very, very little, and that's why we've come to this point. They've been allowed to basically rob people. They've been allowed to run a cartel. And we're only hearing about it because, people are being forced off the road because of the soaring costs. And I don't think that we can let the market decide the prices, because the market left to itself is only going to steal from people. And that's what we're seeing, massive profits to these companies. So I think that calling on Westminster to investigate, I think that Stormont, the executive, needs to have put far more teeth into its effort to regulate the insurance industry when it comes to cars or home insurance. The profits, the skyrocketing profits, are out of control, and this has been a feature of the last couple of years, where we're seeing more and more wealth, sucked up to the top of the society, while ordinary people struggle with very basic pay raises, if they get a pay raise at all. So look, I think ultimately we would like to see, as people before profit, a publicly run insurance company that can provide cheap third-party insurance, and I would like to see that developed on an all-Ireland basis. But I think we're very, very far from that right now. But this is one example of many that we could point to, where privatisation, deregulation has created a situation where profiteering is out of control, and it needs to be reined in. So we fully support the proposals included in the motion.
Councillor Donnelly.
Good, Chair. I'll keep it short and sweet. A lot of what needed to be said has been said. Happy to support the motion. When you look at particularly young people, young carers, trying to get doing a great job, and the wages aren't great, and then they're hit with an astronomical bill for insurance is absolutely, it's inexplainable, other than greed. So happy to support the motion, and thanks to Councillor Duffy for bringing it. Thank you.
Okay, Sandra, would you like to sum up?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, everybody, for your support in relation to the motion. People do absolutely need a break. Insurance premiums have been going up well above inflation and well above affordability for people, and something does need to be done. So I appreciate the support, and I agree with Councillor Riley. It is more than just car insurance. I have been talking to so many people in terms of their own home insurance, which has doubled in price as well, and without ever making any sort of claim. So people are unaware of how these amounts are being landed at this point. So people do need a break, and Sinn Féin will continue to stand up for workers and families. Thank you.
I have heard no dissenting voices, so I'm going to check that motion as unanimous. Okay, moving on now, Caroline. Via seconder, Caroline, please. Thank you, Fergal.
Very good, Mayor. As a rural dweller myself, I'm well aware of the unique challenges facing our rural communities. Social isolation and loneliness, limited employment opportunities, high fuel and transport costs, difficulties accessing public transport, and lack of social activities. Just last week, a number of councillors met with trainees at New Horizons in Strabane, and they raised actually all of these issues with us and how they impact on people with disabilities as well. We've talked in this chamber about regional imbalance, and it was mentioned a number of times yesterday, but I think we also need to highlight issues of rural imbalance. Underinvestment and disparity of service provision in rural areas needs to be addressed. Those living in our rural towns, villages and communities face different challenges to those in urban areas, and focus and adequate resourcing needs to be given to supporting those rural communities. Funding has been provided in urban areas through neighbourhood renewal to tackle deprivation and disadvantage, and this has had a significantly positive impact on those communities. And we now need to see the same focus being put on addressing deprivation and disadvantage in rural areas and on regenerating and revitalising our towns and our villages. We need fair and equitable allocation of funding to improve our rural infrastructure and build capacity within the community and voluntary sector in rural areas. In 2014, Michelle O'Neill, as the DARD manager, allocated £70 million through the Rural Development Programme to deliver initiatives for rural areas, and this district benefited from over £7.5 million of funding through the LEADER programme. That programme helped to improve facilities and services for rural dwellers and support the growth of rural businesses. And I've heard countless times since I've joined this council how beneficial this programme was in the district and the great work delivered through the LAGs. Following Brexit, however, we have lost access to this vital EU funding. Despite Tory government assurances that the level of EU replacement funding would be maintained post-Brexit, this has not happened, and the Shared Prosperity Fund falls well short of the funding provided through the previous mechanisms and has not delivered for rural areas here in the north. Partition, Brexit and years of Tory government underfunding is creating further disadvantage in our rural communities in the district. We see Donegal currently benefiting from an allocation of £10.4 million under the new LEADER programme, which is not available to us. The community and voluntary organisations and the rural DEAs are doing really fantastic work with the limited resources they have. A recent survey carried out by the Rural Support Networks highlights the issues that are faced by those groups in this area. 51% of rural community groups have no paid staff. 64% of groups have an annual income of less than £50,000, and nearly 68% of groups said they're worse off financially following Brexit and COVID. The report also highlights that funding programme costs and covering the day-to-day running costs of centres are the two biggest issues facing rural community groups. Community centres are vital in rural areas where there are no council-owned facilities to deliver services, and we've recently seen that the funding provided through the Community Centre Venue Fund is clearly not sufficient to support our rural community centres. And in February, I made a proposal to write to DFC asking for the budget to be increased to help those centres who are struggling to cover running costs and in fact are struggling to keep their doors opened.
Caroline, you've just run over time. I'll let you finish off now. Okay.
Members, I just ask for your support in this motion, calling for fair and equitable allocation of funding to our rural population and insisting that the British Government to deliver ring-fenced EU replacement funding to support rural regeneration and community development.
Councillor Rimenbar.
I welcome Councillor Devine's motion and agree wholeheartedly with the sentiments expressed therein, and very happy to support it. However, I also feel that this council is guilty of taking the side of the ball when it comes to regeneration in rural areas. I quote examples in Strabane, such as street furniture, flower displays, festivals, the Moore and Riverside Walk, where we were presented with remediation options but never given the opportunity to progress them. Our play parks. I'm aware of a situation in Sion Mills with the Bog Meadow Park in Ballyfatton, where the community are crying out for the play area to be resurfaced this last number of years. At the minute, the kids have to travel to Gleeburn to Melvin Park. we talk about regional imbalance in terms of social and economic issues and the funding that's needed to address these issues, and that is a major problem. But there's also, in my view, an imbalance within our council when it comes to meeting the needs of rural communities. And I think that's something that needs to be addressed. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Kerrigan.
Thank you, Mayor. Apologies, I forgot to turn that off. Mayor, a very slight amendment I'll put forward to Jill, and it's just in regards to the second last paragraph there, and it is that the council writes to the British Prime Minister, the DAERA Minister, but I've also deemed to include the Finance Minister, because to get any money, you've got to look for them as well, because the budget is set there under Minister Archibald. So that's, that would be my proposal, to make a slight amendment on that, to include that.
Yes, seconder for that amendment. Yeah, okay, thank you, Irene.
Do you want, I can continue on it as it stands. In regards to the rest of the proposal, I'm content enough with what Councillor Devine has stated here. You know, it is the facts as the rural councillor see that there. The community associations and the groups and the rural end, when we see the lack of resources and we see the amount of groups, particularly make reference to our own, the DAERA DEA, the amount of the DAERA microcapital grants and the amount of those applications that come in from various groups within the DAERA DEA is effectively more than the Spairn and the Faughan DEAs combined. We don't have that level or that nature of community centres, and a lot of the groups are voluntary, and we don't have the full-time workers. And it's that case. It's a lot of people that are out working and they're volunteering and they're then looking to fill in application forms and that. So there is that. We do need that additional assistance, and I will pay credit as well, as Councillor Devine will know, in regards to Rapid and the work that they continue to do in the rural area, and particularly their outreach worker, Jill, and the DAERA DA, and the amount of groups that she supports. But it is the nature that we have that. It's the level and the number of groups, but it's another thing as well that council has to look at themselves, because it has been mentioned about support for community centres, and there may well be that case in the old Derry City Council in regards to the rural area and the Faughan as it is now. There are major community centres. We don't have that. We have a lot of groups that are meeting in a church hall, meeting in an orange hall, meeting in a GAA centre. They are all small groups. They don't have their own venue, but they still have core costs. And the way our documentation is there, those groups can't apply for that funding, or else we cannot support an organisation that's maybe meeting in a church hall there, because that venue is used to promote religion. So there's those things there that we need to look at, if there's a way that we can try and assist these groups more so. You know, it's not just, we need more money, surely, but we need to look at our own procedures and how we deal with things. But in regards to it, Mayor, I'm content, bar this wee slight amendment, I'm content to support Councillor Devine's proposal. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Jason Barr.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I'll just keep it short and sweet, as most of what has been already said, but I'm more than content to support Councillor Devine's motion here. Very timely motion, and a motion that I'm sure will get cross-party support. And here it is, because rural areas always seem to be overlooked. And it's not just the councillor says, the people on the ground, it's the people living in them rural communities that are constantly contacting us, especially rural councillors and councillors that represent these areas, that we're always getting contacted for issues that they always feel that they are overlooked. So definitely, I feel that this is a very good motion and something that I'll definitely be supporting 100%. Thank you.
Councillor Norris.
Thank you, Mayor, for bringing me in. Thank you, Councillor Devine, for bringing the motion. Again, being a rural councillor, we're crying out all the time. The communities, you're working with communities every day, you're looking for funding, the groups, you know, and it's just not there. I have just a couple of wee points. So when the rural development programme was taken away, DAERA has worked on a rural policy framework, but nobody knows where it sort of is. If we're putting in the letter, I would like that to be included in the letter. The DAERA is, where is the rural policy framework and what are they doing on it? And also for the British government, we are out of Europe now, but there is non-Euro countries like Norway who buy under the transnational programme. and it's a 35% buy-in, and they get 65% back. The British government has not looked at this. That's because it's Northern Ireland. It's not, no, it's not important to them. It's us. There's a very small section of Northern Ireland as well. So I would ask if the letter going to the British government as well, they ask them about the transnational programme. Thank you.
Alderman Cook.
Thanks, Mayor, for letting me in. So these are Alderman Middleton's words, but unfortunately she's had to attend a last-minute appointment. So she has written, as a rural councillor and dweller, I also share the deep concern of the inequalities our rural communities and community centres are facing. We have community organisations working with hundreds of young people weekly in the Fahan and all our rural areas, or engaging with older people, upskilling residents, looking after the environment and providing vital services to residents, services that we don't have ready access to. Although I agree that funding streams are difficult to access, I do believe it is important to note that the problem predates Brexit and is one that is mentioned in some shape or form in every one of our council and committee meetings. You only need to look at the share of community centre funding within our own council area within the last decade or two to notice vast disparities in the rural and urban allocations. And please know I am not wanting to take funding away from any centre or organisation. I and those that I represent want to feel that the rural areas are getting a fair and equitable share of available funding to acknowledge and enhance the incredible work that has taken place. As mentioned, we in the DUP will be supporting the motion and are very hopeful that we will see credible funding streams introduced that acknowledge and reward the work that is being done to address the many issues faced in our rural areas and the rural inequalities as mentioned. Thank you.
Before I ask Caroline to sum up, I'm aware there was a very short amendment, so are we okay to incorporate that as a whole motion, given that's, yeah. So if you want to sum up now, Caroline.
I just want to thank everybody for their comments and their support today. And I'm grateful that the motion's getting passed. So thank you very much.
Just for clarity too, there was a few things that Councillor Norris asked to be included in the letter. So are we okay that those items are included, or should we bring a slight amendment? I think it might need an. We need to be clear on what I think that. If you want to just repeat it, and we'll have that in the body of the letter, if that's okay.
So it's just really, Dara was working on a rural policy framework. But it just hasn't seemed to come to fold, you know, so I would like that included in the letter, that where is this rural policy framework that they've been working on? And also, non-Euro countries like Norway buy into a programme called the transnational programme, where it's 35% buy-in and they get 65% back of money. The British government hasn't looked at this at all, or they have looked at it, but hasn't went on it, you know. So I'm asking them, can they look at this? Because the level of fund and all isn't there, you know. Is that all right?
Councillor Norris, there's something just going to come up on the screen now, and we're just asking you to verify that that's exactly what you meant, and then I'm looking for a seconder for that. There was something.
Okay with that? You said it's.
That's okay. Uh,
Do you want to just tell us what that is?
If you can just clarify for the committee clerk.
Up to me. Just email it to me.
I've asked her so long already. Okay, I'm just conscious I've asked Caroline to sum up already. But Caroline, you okay, just okay with the amendment? Yeah. And is everybody okay with the amendment? Yes. Oh, Christopher, Sean, sorry. Christopher, do you want to say something there?
I know this motion has been unanimously backed and so we don't want to muddy the waters and take away from that the collaborative working, but like the focus of the motion was to ensure that there was or they put a focus on the replacement of lost EU funding and they request ring fence funding to support rural regeneration. I know that we can all have political differences. It's and I suppose in relation to how we can replace that European funding, by going and asking the British government they enter us into some transnational agreement or do anything that's going to harden an Irish sea border and enter into that discussion again. No, there's an alternative. They enter in the secure European funding, and that's through Irish unity, and that's been very, very clear. And the conversations around and we're getting that loud and clear from the rural communities. Is that around any promises from a Europe from a British government about how they're going to replace European funding. There's not a great deal of confidence in relation to that. People are looking more towards entering into the European Union, getting those cast iron guarantees, that they're eligible for European funding through Irish Unity, through full membership of the European Union. And that's what we're hearing loud and clear from people within your rural communities. And that's where we sort of believe that this council should be looking at too. But saying that the amendment's been posed, we don't feel that it takes away too much from the thrust of the motion. So on that basis, we'll be supporting it. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, does anybody else want to speak to the amendment? No? Caroline, is there anything you would like to? No, I can take that as unanimous then. Okay, yeah. Right, we'll move on now, and it's Councillor Norris. Councillor, for your seconder for that motion. Thank you. Sure.
I'll take the motion as being read. This motion is very straightforward, but it's a very important motion. Sort of follows on some of the stuff that Councillor Devine was saying before. Present in the rural, in the Faughan DA, there's really only two sort of facilities for sports groups to use all year, and that's in new buildings and Lairs and Donny. At present, in Eglinton and Ardmore, there's a lot of sporting groups, as there is in the whole Faughan DA. But in Eglinton, there's Eglinton Eagles, which is 285 members, young youth members. The cricket club is nearly 100. Ardmore GA is 164. The cricket club is nearly 60. Slockmanus Gaelic club is a couple of hundred children as well. There's just not enough facilities at present for these groups to use all year. So they're using a lot of money. Eglinton Eagles, I think their average money is about £2,300 a month out to use our facilities to train. We heard yesterday about the St. Canice's Park facility and the cars coming down to it and all the rest. That's a council-owned facility, the football pitches, and that would be one of the ones where I would look to see how it could be enhanced. It's a possibility of putting a muggle there, possibility of putting a small car park there for the parents to come on the drive. Again, in Ardmore, there's no council-owned facilities at all. The Gaelic club and the football club is owned privately, private land that's rented to them. There's nothing there for the young youth to come down to use at all if they want to play or if they want to train. So again, I would look at Ardmore to see if there's anywhere that we can put a mugga and some other infrastructure. And again, across the whole Faughan DA. Thank you.
Okay, Alderman Cook.
Thanks, Mayor, for letting me in. And again, this is Alderman Middleton's words. Across the Faughan, we have many incredible sports clubs filled with talented sportsmen, women, boys and girls. More often than not, these sports clubs are organised and led by amazing volunteers, people giving up their free time to provide sporting opportunities, training, health and wellbeing projects, mental health support and social inclusion for rural dwellers. I'm not going to start naming example clubs or organisations as there are so many amazing groups out there. Each area deserves to have adequate multi-use, all-weather sporting areas. However, with this motion, we as a party are happy to support the call for council to actively investigate how we can provide more for the Faughan DA with a focus initially on Eglinton and Ardmore, with a view of providing for other rural areas in the Faughan and also place emphasis on funding to upkeep these facilities as and when required. Thank you.
Paul.
Mayor, and thank you very much to Councillor Norris for bringing forward the motion. I have submitted a slight amendment to the motion, and I've sent that through to the committee section already.
Do you seconder for that amendment, Caroline? Yep. Okay, Councillor, do you want to?
Thank you,
Talk.
Mayor, and I agree wholeheartedly with the sentiment of what Councillor Norris was suggesting in the first part of his motion. But given that it does talk about all well sporting facilities in our rural areas, I do think it's important that we include within the motion all those rural areas, because all DAs are facing the same problem, whether that is Sperrenderg or Faughan. And I don't think that Muggas, I think everybody here would agree that whenever we want a Mugga built or even we want it maintained, it doesn't happen in a month or two. And this motion there for is, you know, a long-reaching or far-reaching motion that is going to take a lot of work from council officers and from ourselves. So on that basis, I think it's important that we include all three rural DAs, not taking away from the needs that Faughan has, but also including the needs that the other two rural DAs have as well.
Councillor Barr.
Welcome this motion from Councillor Norris, and agree with most of what he says there. Also agree with Councillor Boggs there. As I said earlier, this is one of the major problems in all the rural areas in our council district. Earlier there I alluded to say involves the Bog Park. The problem exists in Strabane with the delay in the Mugga and Patrician Villas. We have Muggas on Beachpoint Avenue and Courtney Park, which are unusable. And with Strabane Athletic and Say and Swifts expanding all the time, supply just doesn't meet demand. Thank you, Mayor.
Right, I have no more speakers on the motion or the amendment. I'm just wondering, should we just take the whole lot together? It doesn't really.
Just ask, is everybody happy with it?
First of all, is everybody happy with the amendment? Yeah. Right, I'm now going to ask Councillor Norris to sum up.
Thank you for everybody speaking. I have no problem with the amendment, although I sort of mentioned Eglinton. Eglinton's the fourth biggest settlement in the district, you know, now. It's like 3,600 people living in it, and the facilities that we have within it is not acceptable, really, you know. So that's why I was sort of highlighting Eglinton and the motion. But thanks everybody for speaking, and we all know we need facilities and we need it looked at. And I know it's going to be a lot of work now with all the DAs, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and I see that as unanimous, so I'm going to move on. And the next motion, and that's yourself, Catherine.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll take the motion as read.
The seconder, Brian.
I know many people across this council will agree with me that there are many aspects of the Tory policy in the last 14 years that have brought pain to working people. But today, this motion is about a policy I believe is uniquely cruel and which has been described as the biggest driver of child poverty in the UK, namely the 2-child limit in universal credit. It's a policy that has forced more and more children into poverty since its introduction. And although the Tories claim this is a policy that is about boosting the number of people in work, my party believes it's nothing short of perverse Tory social engineering. It's designed to punish the most vulnerable people, and it's a stain in our politics that should never have been allowed to happen. There are over 9,000 children living in poverty in our council area. Our rates of relative poverty are double the rates of the most affluent places in the north, and those levels that have barely changed in the past 10 years. I've spoken about food poverty and child poverty in this chamber before, and I've highlighted the devastating long and life-limited impact it has on our children, so I'll not go through it again. But the fact is that poverty kills. The gap in healthy life expectancy between the most and least deprived areas is up to 15 years, and I've no doubt that this disgusting two-child limit policy has fueled that poverty. The North has been particularly impacted by this policy due to our larger than average family size. Children and families in Northern Ireland deserve much better than this. These children have the right in law to an adequate standard of living, including a right to social security. The two-child limit, which has also been called the sibling penalty, is in direct opposition of that right. The sooner we can get the Tories out of power, the better, and then we can also hold Labour's feet to the fire to repeal this policy as well. But it's not enough just to blame the Tories. We believe that our locally elected assembly must also take action. That means I'm calling for the Minister of Communities to present a plan before the Assembly to remove this limit. I'm not asking for it to be removed overnight, but to set the direction to once and for all end this poverty trap that has caused so much misery for so many people. We need our MLAs and ministers to stand up to the Tories and make a difference. We can't afford to keep talking about all these great ideas to make life better for people living here. We need action now, and that starts with an action plan with tangible goals that can be held to account. Thank you.
Okay, Ashley.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks, Catherine, for bringing the motion, which we fully support, and thank you for bringing it here today. And all of the stats that Catherine has just outlined, there's one that I just want to highlight, and that is the stats around 21% of families here in the North having 3 or more children. So obviously they're the ones that are severely impacted by this two-child cap. And those children within that 21% of those families are 4 times more likely to develop a mental health condition by the age of 11 years of age. That is a shocking figure that has come out of the Northern Ireland Audit Report. So it means that those children from the outset are severely socially disadvantaged. And that impacts on not just their emotional and mental well-being, but also their physical and nutritional well-being. So 9,000 of those children live here in our district. So that's 9,000 children that aren't getting the best start in life that they should be getting. So again, and we've talked about this yesterday in this chamber, it has been mentioned here today, this is all Tory policy. And until we break the linkages with Westminster, I am just regretful to say this, that we are going to be talking about this for another 10 years. So thank you, Catherine, for bringing this motion along today, and action needs to be taken to break those linkages so that the 9,000 children in our district, the 21% of families in Northern Ireland, that those children are getting the best start in life. Thank you.
Irene.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting me in, and thanks to Catherine for bringing this motion forward. Department for Communities is currently considering the Northern Ireland Audit Office's recent review of the Executive's Child Poverty Strategy, which expired in May 2022. Actions on child poverty will become part of the new anti-poverty strategy, subject to Executive approval. It's important that we prioritise the issues that make a tangible difference to people's lives. The Executive should develop a robust and effective anti-poverty strategy, and any lessons learned from the Northern Ireland Audit Office report could inform this work. It is concerning to see in the recently published NI Poverty Bulletin that there is a rise in the number of children and working age adults living in poverty in 2022 to 2023. The level of children in poverty after housing costs in Northern Ireland remain lower than the averages across the rest of the UK. That is no reason to be complacent. We can only lift children out of poverty by lifting families out of poverty. This will require the efforts, for the Department for Communities alongside other departments, including economy, education and health. Although the Department for Communities is leading on the anti-poverty strategy, it remains an executive strategy. The two-child limit policy was introduced by the UK Government, both to reduce the cost of the benefit system and to ensure households on means-tested benefits would face the same financial choices about having children as those supporting themselves solely through work. Households with a third or subsequent child born from the 6th of April 2017 claiming universal credit, child tax credit or housing benefit no longer receive additional amounts for these children. In 2022, the Welfare Mitigations Review Independent Advisory Panel report estimated the cost to offset the two-child policy at 52.9 million in 24-25. Uplifted for recent higher levels of inflation applied to benefit and pension payments, the revised estimate is 56.4 million for 24-25. There will also be costs to develop the IT infrastructure necessary to deliver any new payments. DFC are currently taking forward work to update the estimated costs for all of the recommendations coming out of the advisory panel's report to help inform decisions on this matter. Executive agreement will be required on any decisions
just finish up, please.
regarding future mitigations. That's it. And I have a slight amendment put forward as well, Mayor, which I've sent on to Jill.
Have you a seconder for that amendment? Thank you, Chelsea. Okay, everybody a chance to read that amendment. So Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor McDade, for bringing this motion today. I think it's very, very timely, and I'm very happy to support the original motion, the amendment, and I've got an amendment of my own once we deal with this one, Mayor, if that's all right. I think, as other speakers have said, that the two-child cap is cruel, and we don't ration education to the first two children or anything else, and anyone would think that that would be completely unacceptable if we said it's only the first two children in your household that are going to get to go to school, or any other service that's provided, or first two children get to go to hospital, or anything else. So this is one of the most sick Tory policies that we've had over the last 15 years, and we can see the outworking of it. It has led to an increase in child poverty here in the north, where 45,000 children are in homes impacted by the two-child poverty, and across these islands we see a devastating rise in child poverty. So we fully support the call on the Stormont Executive to, as soon as possible, get rid of the two-child policy as part of an anti-poverty strategy. And I commend Councillor McDade for bringing this in today. I think that this should never have been introduced here. And I think we can see why it shouldn't have been introduced, because of the impact it's had on many of the most vulnerable people in our society, our children. My amendment, and I'll just speak to it now if that's okay, Mayor, is to simply add that we...
I'm just going to hold it just a wee minute. I'm just going to make sure that
That's right.
everybody's in agreement with this amendment first before we move on. Yes, and we'll just incorporate it under the overall motion. So, Councillor Harkin, go ahead now.
Thank you, Mayor. And yeah, look, my amendment is, I said it was timely that Councillor McDade had introduced this now, and I assume when she wrote it up, we didn't know we were going to be in an election. So I think that given that neither the Tory party nor Keir Starmer's Labour Party support removing the two-child limit at this point, that we call on them to do that, and that we also write to the next Westminster government, whoever it is, calling on them to immediately scrap the two-child policy. I think that this would go a long way to putting a dent in the child poverty statistics that we see here across the north and indeed across these islands. And I think that, you know, whatever we can do as a council to remove this unacceptable piece of legislation, we should do it. Thank you.
Have you a seconder? You've passed that amendment on the committee, clerk, yeah? And have you a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Barr. Gotta get a chance to have a look at that, and is everybody okay with it? Yeah, I've no more indicated. Oh, sorry, Councillor Donnelly.
Good Chair. Happy to support the motion, Chair, but I think what needs to be said is that what kind of world, or you know, anybody and anybody on the ground working will know the effect that these measures are having on families and in particular young children. And this is evidenced in local primary schools, working class areas, where the schools are struggling right across the board with their budgets, but they're also struggling in order to put on free school meals for children for a month or 2 months. And they've noticed that when that happens, the attendance at school will skyrocket, will increase significantly. But I think that when we look at it in the whole, when we see governments sending tens of billions of pounds in order to fuel and maintain conflict in the world, causing the deaths of thousands of civilians, non-combatants, a lot of them children, that money can be easily found by the Tories and including the Labour, no doubt, when they take over, not only in places like Ukraine and the Yemen, and then we see, you know, the regimes, and it's not just the Tories. Stormont is complicit in a lot of this too, and then they attack the most vulnerable in society. There's billions of pounds to aid the war industry, but yet we don't have enough to make sure that local school children aren't going hungry. And I think that needed to be said, Chair, and happy to support the motion. Thank you.
Right, I think everybody is in agreement with the whole motion. So, Catherine, can I ask you first to sum up?
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks to everyone who spoke to and added to my motion. I agree with what everyone has said. This is the result of a Tory government that doesn't care one bit about the people here, and we do need to get rid of them. But the Assembly does have the power to reverse this policy. We're almost 6 months under government back up now, and there's no tangible action plans. There's been loads of lovely speeches about priorities, but there's no actions. I know it's a bit simplistic, but there's no smart goals coming out of the Assembly. There's nothing that we can actually hold people to account for. The SLP and opposition have brought so many costed plans that could actually reduce poverty, that could actually introduce the childcare strategy, but they're all being watered down by the bigger parties. This worries me because it feels a wee bit like there's a lot of talk and not any action. But I'm delighted that everyone has supported the essence of this motion today, and I really look forward to seeing the bigger parties actually influencing and storming now to get it done. Thank you.
As I said before, that appears to be unanimous. Okay, so we'll move on now, and it's Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I take the motion as read?
And have you a seconder? Thank you, Raymond.
Thank you, Councillor Barr, for agreeing to second the motion. Look, I don't need to make a case to anyone in here about why we need an expanded higher education provision in Derry in the Northwest. Everybody is on board for expanding McGee as soon as possible to 10,000 students. And we all know that the economic benefits that will come with that, and the benefits that will come to young people here who aspire to stay in their homes or in their home area instead of having to travel elsewhere. And I think we get an idea and a glimpse of what changes could happen to Derry and the broader Northwest when we look at places like Galway and Limerick and see the impact of large student populations in those areas. So I think that's the first thing. The second thing is I think we should welcome the Royal Irish Academy's ongoing intervention around looking at higher education provision in the Northwest. And they've done a number of studies now, and they've been doing workshops in a number of localities off the back of their studies. And obviously the paper has been funded in part by the Irish government. They do look at higher education provision, not just in Derry, but across the Northwest. And they do look at the historic underinvestment in both jurisdictions, in the south and the north, because it's not just Derry that has suffered from a lack of investment in higher education. It's very much our Donegal as well. And they also look at the infrastructure problems that compound the lack of investment in education. So I think that their paper that they've done recently is very much worth engaging with from the point of view of a council that is eager to see university expansion happen here as soon as possible. They have quite a few proposals. They have a difference, maybe a difference of opinion with some in the council about the best way to make sure university expansion happens here, with an ultimate goal of a cross-border independent university. But they make a proposal in their paper that I think we have to take very seriously, no matter what arrangement allows for the development of university expansion, which is that there's no independent oversight body in the north that looks at higher education provision. And their argument is that this is one of the reasons why 80% of students have ended up in Belfast, which happens nowhere else in these islands, where you've got such a massive concentration of students to the detriment of all our areas. So there is an oversight body in the south. There's an oversight body in Britain that actually has oversight over higher education. And one thing that struck me meeting with all our councillors and aldermen maybe a year and a half ago with the Vice Chancellor, Paul Bartholomew, and we were talking to him about how we would make sure that the goal set out in the New Decade Approach, New Approach Agreement of expanding McGee to 10,000 students would be kept. And he said, look, that there is no accountability, there's no direction that Ulster University is forced to take from government. They operate independently, they make their own decisions. And that means that, an oversight body, I believe, can play a role that would be legislated for and funded in making sure that the goals set out by government, by council, that would actually be followed through on. So look, I think this is something I think we have to take seriously. I think it's a gap that there isn't an oversight body here. I think we have to look at the reasons for that and understand why. And I want to just point out that the paper itself, the Royal Irish Academy paper, welcomes the task force that's been set up, welcomes the New Decade new approach goal of 10,000 students at McGee, welcomes the medical school and welcomes a number of the other developments for higher education in the Northwest. So this is not just a negative paper that doesn't acknowledge that anything else, that there's been no developments. But I think that I think that an independent oversight body that allows council that is putting an enormous investment in the Ulster University through the McGee campus, through the city deal, that allows the Irish government that is investing increasing a large amount of money into McGee. It gives other bodies, other institutions, some ability to hold an institution like Ulster University to account. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And Connor?
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks to Councillor Harkin for bringing this. Just on behalf of our party, we're content to support this. We're happy to hear from anyone in relation to university provision in cities, so we have no issue with that. But to be clear, it's our view that the task force established by the Economy Minister is taking the lead in the expansion for 10,000 students and maybe possibly beyond. So that will remain our focus. That work's well underway. It's already started and we fully support it, but we're content to support the motion. Thanks.
Thank you, Connor. Councillor Farrell?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor, and thanks to Councillor Harkin for his proposal. I'm going to speak on behalf of the SDLP in support of this. We think it's absolutely ridiculous that 83% of university places across the entire north are based in Belfast. We think it's absolutely ridiculous that this was allowed to happen, and it's ridiculous that it's been allowed to continue. And it makes absolutely no sense. It makes sense for Belfast, but it doesn't make sense for anywhere else. So we think it's important that there is independent and impartial oversight, and maybe then Derry in the Northwest will get its fair share. Thank you.
Alderman Kerrigan?
Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me in. We're content enough to support the proposal brought forward by Councillor Harkin in regards to this. Again, there's no difficulty in sending off letters and documentation and getting a presentation into the council, so it'll help to assist. But again, and I know members have been able to attend in regards to the HMOs and in regards to the Chancellor of that, in regard that, but we do have the difficulty, as has been stated in planning, of if we do get 10,000 students, it's the accommodation for that student body as well. But no, we look forward to the day that we have that difficulty and we have that problem to resolve, but more than content to support the proposal put forward by Councillor Harkin. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I have no other indicated speakers, so I'm going to ask Councillor Harkin to sum up.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you everyone who spoke in favour of the proposal. And I don't have a lot to add, to be honest. I think it'll be very useful for us to hear from the Royal Irish Academy and the Hume Foundation when we have them in for a discussion. I think there's a lot in their report that goes in the direction that we want to see in terms of university expansion in Derry and in the broader Northwest. And look, I think that there's high expectations that the task force will move very quickly and drive forward the goal of having 10,000 students at McGee. So I don't disagree that these two developments can go at the same, move at the same time. But obviously the priority right now is that there's a task force set up and that they are meeting, making plans, and hopefully we will see more of that very soon.
Okay, so again, I'm taking that motion as unanimous. So we will move on now, and I think this is the last motion. Councillor Farrell.
Thanks, Mayor. And I have the honour of proposing the last motion during your tenure as Mayor, so I'll remember this for the rest of my life. So Ken.
How unforgettable is that?
So I take the motion as read, and if somebody could kindly second it. This is about the unacceptable waiting times that people right across the Western Trust are experiencing when trying to access services from occupational therapy. So if you need a stair lift in your house, you need a wet room in your house, you need an additional room for a ground floor bedroom. If you need a raised toilet seat, you're going to be waiting a very, very long time. So the waiting time from referral to assessment, so that somebody coming out to your house to have a look to see what exactly you need, is for an adult is 18 months, and for a child it's a shocking 4 years. And this is about aids and adaptations that can help make somebody's life more manageable, make somebody's life more bearable, and people are waiting. Just the timescales here are absolutely ridiculous. And people have asked me previously, why do I have to wait so long? And I can't give them an honest answer. I don't know if it's to do with the budget. I don't know if it's to do with workforce planning. I don't know if it's about recruitment, retention, staff absences. I don't know. But what I do know is that people are being failed and failed miserably. So what we would like is for officials from the Western Trust, officials from the Department of Health to come to this council to explain why people are waiting so long, and more importantly, to tell us what they're going to do to make these services more accessible for people right across this council area. So I would ask for everybody's support. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman McMorris.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to Councillor Farrell for bringing this motion forward. I recently have been working on issues in regards to OT, and I have written off to the Western Trust recently in regard to it, and they came back with the staggering figures that under community occupational therapy, the waiting list is currently sitting at 150 weeks. 2,611 patients in total are on the waiting list, with 1,951 breaching the 13-week waiting list target. For pediatric occupational therapy, the wait is currently 204 weeks, and there's 875 patients on the waiting list, with 777 breaching the 13-week waiting list. We basically welcome any input that the Western Trust can give in regards to the waiting times. However, we have to ask the Minister for Health in order to bring forward a plan to reduce the waiting list, and not only in this area, but a lot of other departments within the Trust. We're not sure, well, I'm not sure, and maybe somebody else is sure, how the Western Trust performance is gauged within Northern Ireland or even in the UK. Do you know, are we doing better or doing worse? But them's the kind of questions I look forward to asking them whenever they come in and give a deputation to committee. But just one last thing, I think it's ironic, and I can understand why they do it, but I recently contacted an OT in regards to a shower chair for a patient or constituent, and basically I thought it would be easy enough. We can get a wee chair delivered and that'll be grand. You know what I mean? It'll just be a quick wee thing. But they would say that they have to come out and make sure that that chair is sitting at the right height. So they have to go into the waiting list for something as simple as a chair. And this one was actually replacing a chair. So it wasn't, so the family could have just pushed the button and put it to the exact same height. I understand why they do it, but it's very frustrating when you have to sit for maybe 2 years or whatever on a waiting list to get a shower chair to allow you to take care of your basic hygiene needs. So we look forward to it and we welcome this being brought forward. And thank you for bringing forward. Thank you.
Councillor Tierney.
Mayor, apologies, I didn't indicate to speak.
There we go.
But I do support the motion, but I didn't indicate to speak.
Sorry. I must have been just carried away by Councillor Farrell's statement about, so Councillor Donnelly.
Chair, I hope you didn't mix me and Councillor Tierney up. All the good work you've done for the year would just be.
That's two of us. I hope that you didn't mix it up.
No, but I'd like to thank Councillor Farrell for the motion and his address. It was just put very simply and straight to the point. I would look forward to it, to seeing it being implemented so that we can ask the questions. But I think it's just part of the system. The system is broke. It's breaking down. And we can see it on a daily basis. I know people and can see people who their knees are crumbling, their hips are crumbling, they're in pain, they're struggling to get about. And it's down to witness and lack of investment in the proper services. And, Councillor Farrell just hit the nail on the head there with his address. So, again, happy to support the motion and to see it being implemented, to be able to address those with responsibility to see why it's not, people of this city and district aren't being given proper services. Thank you.
Paul.
Very good, Mayor, and not to rehash what everybody has already said, but I think the most important plan is, the most important thing is that we maybe find out from the trust what the plan is. As I got there in a roundabout way, I said plan too early. But we can throw all the money and all the kind of problem solving exercise at this, but unless there's a plan to try and fix it, then it's not going to change. But it is from the smallest, from a handrail to a new extension on the side of somebody's house. It's infuriating to watch. So thank you very much to Councillor Farrell for bringing it forward, and more than happy to support the motion.
I have no more indicated speakers, I don't think, so it's over to you, Councillor Farrell, to sum up.
Thanks, Mayor, and just thanks to everybody who supported the motion. It's something that we can all unite around. There's people out there living in pain that are being failed at the minute. So I just think that it is important that we stand up for them and we ask the questions that they cannot ask themselves. So thank you very much.
Okay, and again, I think that's unanimous. So that motion passes. So moving on now to item number 7, that's a ceiling list, May 2024, pages 7 and 8. Can I have a proposer and seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Alderman Kerrigan and Councillor Box. Any other relevant business? No. Oh, Alderman.
Sorry, it was just, I should have declared an interest in regards to the Western Trust because I have a family member working there. So just.
Okay, folks, I will see you all on Monday at the AGM. Thank you.